Howdy, this is Mackenzie Franklin from SideGame LLC here in Colorado Springs, Colorado, and today we're continuing the top 100 board games of all time. This is numbers 90 through 81 of the 2022 edition. Now that being said, all of these games today are rated 8s, and an 8 for me is a game that is very good. I like to play it, I probably suggest it, and I'll never turn down a game. We're using the Board Game Geek rating system here, and this is after our past re-ranking of all the games. Now, all of these games are super fantastic, and there are only about 54 8s in our entire library, so all of these games are winners. Now, that being said, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure that you do. It is the best way to help us grow, and thank you so much for all of you that have already supported the channel that way. But thank you for everything. Let's go ahead and jump into the list with number 90. Number 90 is going to go to the game Final Girl. Now this is a re-implementation of the hostage negotiator system, but takes the approach to a horror setting. So what you're going to be doing is taking one Final Girl and using that Final Girl to maneuver around a map, collecting items, and using cards to deal damage to some sort of terrifying creature or monster or someone that's out to kill you. They're going to be taking out all of these different victims that are on the board, and it's your job to rescue as many as possible while dealing the final blow. My favorite part about Final Girl are the updated cards from the original hostage negotiator game. Every time you play a guard, you're hoping to get successes. However, if you do fail on a card, there are usually a lot of options to still get what you want. If you're searching, you may only get one thing and you might increase the terror, but you're still getting that item you need. If you need to walk, you still can do it, but it may cost you a heart point. So it's really cool how you can mitigate even your failures to accomplish what you need to do. I think the failing forward system is fantastic in here, and I also really love the thematics and how that permeates every aspect of the game, through the different variety and the scenarios, through the feature film boxes, or the characters as a whole by choosing your different Final Girls. I love this system, and it's a great implementation. I'm very excited to see what comes up next in Season 2 of the Kickstarter coming up soon. So that's my number 90, Final Girl. My number 89 is going to the game Abyss. Abyss has you taking the role of lords in this underwater kingdom, and it's your job to use your influence and collect allies in order to recruit more powerful lords onto your side and hopefully win the game by having the most influence. Now the game itself is very straightforward, where you're going to be using these cards and playing those cards in order to recruit lords, and the lords will give you passive abilities or instant abilities, and I really love the mechanism in this game where you are going to be taking lords with continuous effects, but when you get 3 of those lords, you lose the effects but get scoring instead. It's really cool, and it pushes you in the direction to get points, but also is going to change up the abilities throughout the course of the game, and I really like this approach. Now, my favorite part of this game are the effects of the lords themselves. I think it's really fun to kind of analyze the different options available, and I love how interesting the different effects of the lords are. The expansions are great. Abyss and Kraken, I think, are both welcome additions to the system, adding a corrupt currency as well as a way to fight Leviathans, and it's cool that you have all of these different paths to pursue and different economies and currencies that you can skirt around with. It's a lot of fun, a fantastic theme, beautiful production, big, lovely cards. That's my number 89, Abyss. My number 88 is going to the game Seven Wonders, specifically the second edition. I think this is a fantastic drafting game. A civilization drafting game where you are going to be doing your best to build your wonder, as well as accrue points in the form of military, science, as well as just straight up points through monument cards, these blue ones. Now the gameplay is very simple. On your turn, you get to use a card and you get to do multiple things with it. And that's my favorite part about this game, is when you have something in your hand, you can either use it for whatever the card says, so for military or science or whatever, you can use it as part of your wonder and slide it under your tableau here and get some side of special ability, coins or points on Ephesos here. And then the other option is you can just straight up sell the card for cash if you want to. This offers a lot of interesting decisions because you may have a hand that's useless, but maybe you tucked away something or saved something for another play. So I love these options here for either supporting yourself or hate drafting others, and I really enjoy the different expansions that are included in this game. Particularly, I think the new Leaders expansion is really, really fascinating, as you're able to get some really cool additional phases for extra cash to let you play other things, or giving yourself special abilities throughout the game or special scoring. And I love the way that the game escalates from age to age with the effectiveness and power of the cards. This is an amazing drafting game that has very powerful and very fun, satisfying, simultaneous play. I really like this one. That's my number 88, Seven Wonders, second edition. My number 87 is going to the game Rumble in the Dungeon. Rumble in the Dungeon came in at number 72 last year, but it still remains to be an amazing party-style game. This is a game of King of the Hill tactical combat as well as bluffing, and I think it's combined beautifully here. The whole premise of the game is you'll lay out a dungeon, have a bunch of characters on the board, and every character is secretly assigned two of those characters. At the end of the round, if your character survived the longest, you're going to get the most points, and you'll play 3 rounds, most points at the end of those wins. And I really like this system because you have those characters you're protecting, but you're allowed to move any character and attack with any character, and I love that. It's my favorite part about this game. It's really interesting as you try to see what people are doing, and the meta evolves as you play this, as you're moving characters and doing your best to mitigate your losses while ensuring that maybe you're throwing off people or ensuring that just other people are dying so you're accruing points. I really like this system, and it's so much fun. There are many different versions of this game, and the dungeon one in particular I really like because it introduces a new item, the treasure chest, and that gives you an alternate win condition without having to actually be the last person alive. I really like this system. It's a lot of fun, and I think Rumble in the Dungeon is one you need to check out. So that's my number 87, Rumble in the Dungeon. My number 86 is going to the game 5 Tribes. This was number 93 last year, so it actually went up in the rankings. And it's a wonderful game of point salad goodness by Bruno Cathala. Now, this is a super fantastic production. It's just beautiful to look at, but it is a Mancala system at heart. You're going to take a group of these meeples and drop them on the board. Wherever you land, you activate that tile, as well as trigger the abilities and take the characters of whatever color you dropped last. So it's a really interesting system because all the different colors do different things, but they make sense and they're clear delineation on their abilities as well as the abilities on the board. You're going to be doing things like collecting market goods. You're going to be collecting gins. And my favorite part about this game has to be the gins. I love the different abilities here, and I love when cards in games use all the different facets of a game to do something interesting, and these gins are really fascinating. They can repopulate the board, they can allow you to take extra market goods, they can let you use cards that you may not have used before in interesting ways, or they can power up some of the effects of the characters already existing on the board. This makes a fantastic 2-player or 3-player, in my opinion, game. I think the ability to chain turns in the 2-player mode is my favorite, and I think that this game can get a little AP heavy in 4-player games, and the bidding can be a little bit messy with that. But I strongly recommend this game at lower player counts, and it does have a solo mode available if you want to dive into it that way as well. So there's a lot to love about 5 Tribes. Got a lot of plays of this one this year. One that I'm really enjoying, that is 5 Tribes, my number 86. My number 85 is going to High Society, a filler auction game by Reiner Knizia. In this game, you're going to be doing your best to collect all of these influence cards, and you do this by spending your cash. You're trying to do your best to spend your money in lavish ways. However, at the end of the game, whoever spent the most money automatically loses. So there's this constant tension of, do I spend money on this to ensure the points, or do I need to hold back so that I'm not limited at the end? This takes a lot of things that I like about the game QE, but I think that it does it much better here with this closed economy. I think that it's really neat the way that the auction cards are played, and my favorite part about this game are actually the negative cards. During the game, sometimes something bad will show up, like this Passé. This is a negative 5-point card. You don't want that. And instead of putting out your cards in order to take the cards, you'll be putting out cards so that you don't have to. But whoever caves in and takes the bad card, everyone else at the table loses the cash that they put up. I think this is such a fantastic choice here, and it really adds to the tension and making you think, ooh, can I win with this negative card? It is such an interesting decision, and one that I really, really enjoy. This is High Society, my number 85. My number 84 is going to the game Gloomhaven. Now, this came in at 33 on the list last year, but still an amazing game. So Gloomhaven here has you playing a dungeon crawl style, using characters with unique abilities and unique backstories. So as you play, you not only have the objectives of the mission, but also your own personal objectives so you can reach your retirement goals. After you retire, you can look in these white boxes and get a new character and play with them, and your story continues. I love this formation of this story and this overarching narrative throughout mission to mission, and it's why I prefer this base game over Jaws of the Lion, which is more accessible in the way that the board sets up and the simplicity of the actions. Now, I do really enjoy this main game, and my favorite part has to be the action cards in the game. It's a very simple system where you're playing 2 cards at a time, and you'll use the top of one side and the bottom of the other, and then you'll get to react based on what happens and the initiative order. I think this is really cool. The cards are full of flavor, and there's so much to love here, and so many unique, interesting characters, and the cards feed into that. An amazing Euro-inspired dungeon crawling game. This is Gloomhaven, my number 84. My number 83 is going to Praga Caput Regni. Now, this was number 61 on the list last year, but an incredible design by Vladimir Suchy that puts you in Prague during the construction of it. Now, right off the bat, this game's components are off the chart awesome. The board itself is really fascinating as you have these different gears that move around. You have these 3D structures that you'll be building in the game, whether it be the Charles Bridge or the universities or the Hunger Wall. And I love the flavor and lore that is put into the game. But at the core, this game is an action selection game. You're going to be taking out a tile, resolving the tile, and then moving the wheel. And there's an incentive system that works really well with that wheel. But what people don't talk about this game enough are the tile placement aspects of the game. There's some really neat things going on here, and that's my favorite part about the game. During the game, you're allowed to take actions that let you take tiles to upgrade your individual board. Now you have these technology tiles here that will give you upgraded actions whenever you take one in the future. Now every time you take the bridge action, you get extra points. Or whenever you do this, you get a coin, so on and so forth. And as the game plays, all these tiles are going to level up in their efficiency from the first age to the second age, which is super fun. You also have tiles that you're going to be placing on a large center board or around your personal player board. And the more you do that, the more points you're going to score through forms of area control as well as matching symbols and set collection. I think this is such a fantastic system. It's so smooth to play, and it has a lot of satisfying things that you find in Suhi games, and I think they exist here as well. It is such a joy to play, and the history is so potent. The board is wonderful, the art is great, the gameplay is clean, satisfying, and fun. That is my number 83, Praga Caput Regni. My number 82 is going to the game Railroad Ink Challenge. Lush Green Edition did not appear on the list last year, but this game has really grown on me recently, and I'm having so much fun consistently bringing this out and playing it. Now, the reason that I enjoy this is because of the additions the challenge it brings. So the gameplay in the original is dead simple. You roll dice, you use those dice to draw routes, you're trying to connect the exits. That's pretty much it, and that core still exists in this game. However, the new Challenge Edition introduces what are called these goal cards. And these goals here offer you things that you are trying to complete before anybody else does, and that is huge because a 12-point swing can be pretty significant in this game. If you are able to satisfy these conditions first, you're going to score more points than everybody else. Now, this right off the bat should not be a big deal, but it is. This is going to dramatically change the way that you play the game, how you pursue it, and going to have you veering off of the main strategies in that core experience in things like the original edition offered. Now, I love these goals, how simple they are, and I love how some of the expansions also have goals that are directly tied into that, but you also have these universal goals that can be used every game, and I love this system. This game also offers so many different expansion dice that you can throw into the core game that are going to offer you some really interesting gameplay. I really like the two that come in the Lush Green Edition with the trails and the forests, and I'm also really enjoying all of the expansions in the Eldritch expansion. There's some really cool stuff with these unique dice, and it's just so much fun to include new things in the game and try them out and see how they interact. There's a lot to love here in the solo or multiplayer experience, small package, one that you can bring anywhere, and you probably will end up bringing everywhere because it's such an accessible yet fun game. That's my number 82, Railroad Ink Challenge. The last game on this list is Tekkenu Obelisk of the Sun, a co-designed by Daniel Tascini and David Turchi. My number 81 this year, was 37 last year. This game offers you dice drafting with an Egyptian theme. It falls in the Civilization line of games, the T-Series from Board and Dice, and I think this game is a winner. So the whole concept of this game is you only have, I think it's 16 turns in the entire game, and you'll be drafting dice from this center obelisk. Every time the obelisk turns at the end of every other round, you're going to be moving where these dice are and their values. During the game, you're trying to collect dice to go onto the pure and the tainted side of your board and trying to keep these equal. You're balancing the Mott scales, which I think is really fun and thematic, but you have lots of different avenues for victory. And my favorite part about this game are the cards that you play during the game. During the start of the game, you're going to be getting these decree cards that give you scoring conditions. That's going to set you up right from the get-go. But during the game, you're going to be collecting cards that either give you new abilities through technology, one-time effects with these blessing cards, or more endgame scoring cards, and you can score up to 3 of those by the end of the game. I really love how the market of cards is laid out. You have lots of options when it comes to selecting them, and I think that it's just so awesome that you have the ability to constantly filter through these cards by paying extra paper resources. I think that this is so cool. It brings asymmetry from turn 1 with your scoring conditions and allows you to build up your own asymmetry as you play. I love the dice system, I love the multi-use dice, and I love the bonuses that you're going to accrue as you play. This is a fantastic game, and if you haven't played the Time of Seth expansion, it is so wonderful. It changes a lot of things and improves the pillar track, which was probably my biggest argument with the game in the original edition, but man, it's just a lot of fun to play. I love this one. This is Tekkenu Obelisk of the Sun, my number 81. And that's the list. Those are numbers 90 through 81 in the top 100 board games of all time, 2022 edition. If you have any questions about any of these games, please let me know down in the comments below. What do you think about these games I talked about? Do you think that any of them should be higher? Should they not be on the list at all? I'd love to hear what you think. But thank you so much for watching SideGame Strong.